Hello, my loves. This is Johanna Burkhart. I am a multidimensional channel, teacher, healer, and author. And I am obsessed with all things metaphysical, esoteric, galactic, and of course, the healing journey. And I'm here to share my stories, my wisdom, and my teachings about being human in the illusion that we call reality. Welcome to Cosmic Blonde. Hello, my loves. For those of you who don't know, when I was on my nomad journey, one of the things that I did on my nomad journey was house sit. And I'm sure I've talked about it. I used an app called Trusted House Sitter, and you pick your destination and the city, the state, and then you apply for a house sit in that area, and that way you have free housing, right? You're saving money on hotels and Airbnbs and all of that stuff. And it allowed me to also watch other people's animals so that I could fill that hole inside of me from not having my animals, because I've had animals my whole life. I don't think I think there was only very short stints of time where I didn't have a dog, especially. And so house sitting, dog sitting was a way for me to fill my cup in in that respect, and then also to have housing, right, while I was traveling the United States. Well, when I decided to root down and become stationary in one location, right, and end the nomad journey, I decided to continue to house sit or slash dog sit, but to do it locally. And so with that, there's an app called Rover. And this is different because Rover, they pay you, right? So they pay you to stay at their house, watch their animals, take care of everything that needs to be taken care of. You set the rates. Well, I don't get a whole lot of them, but this was my second, maybe third since I moved here in July, where someone had booked a dog sit. And so it's about 25 minutes from my house, and it was 5 days. I'm actually still on it as I record this, but they have a Great Dane, and I love Great Danes, right? So I was like, come, I meet the dog. I'm like, yes, I'll stay here. And it was giving me an opportunity to kind of take a little reprieve from my house, right? I live with my brother from another mother and his wife and his three kids. And sometimes that can be a lot of energy for me. And I am someone that needs to recharge. I need to go into a sacred space for a little while. And I have just been on the go over most of December. And, there's been a lot that's happened in my life over the last few months. And there's just been a lot. And so I was like, this is going to be perfect. It's going to force me to not go out and to stay home and just focus on me, resting, number one. Number two, focusing on getting caught up with work and being prepared for this new big influx of clients that have shown up. And so I thought, yes, absolutely, I'm going to do that. Well, I find out that she has a roommate, and he's a flight attendant. He's gay, and I love me a gay guy. Absolutely love. I love, love, love them. Like, I have so much fun with them. They're just, I don't know, there's something about them, right? And she said, he's most likely not going to be here, and I will pay you extra to watch his dog because he'll probably be on flights and picking up shifts, and so he won't be home. And so I was like, cool, no problem. I mean, once you have one dog, adding in another in is not a big deal. And so super excited, pack my bags. Was due to get here Wednesday morning. And I need to tell you that for context, right? It was the morning. So she had given me her key because I had actually sat for her overnight once right after we met and hadn't met him yet, right? For this podcast, we'll call him George. So anyway, I get here Wednesday morning, unlock the door. I have two bags in my hand, like hands are full, walk in the door, and George, her roommate, is sitting at the island bar your kitchen island bar with a box of red wine and was very intoxicated and in a very bad place. And so I walk in, I shut the door, I set my bag down, and I go to shake his hand and introduce myself. And the first words out of his mouth were, "I'm so sorry. I forgot you were coming, and I was planning on unaliving myself." I just have to pause for a second. That is a lot to walk into, especially when you don't even know the person and you can see that they are visibly intoxicated, right? They're obviously intoxicated. So I put my stuff in the room that I'm staying in. I go out, get the rest of my stuff. He's on and off the phone, and I'm not quite sure what to do with this yet, other than to just go about what I'm doing, let him be himself. He had gotten off the phone and he had said to me that he had talked to whoever the rep is for like mental health or addiction, things like that, for the airline that he worked for. And that they were going to come pick him up and put him in an inpatient facility. And all I could say to him was, "What can I do? What can I do for you? Is there anything I can do?" And he said no. And he was on the phone with his mom, and I could overhear him say that he was going to go to sleep. This made me nervous because I don't know what he's really going to do, right? There's pill bottles, there's wine, and he's going into his room and shutting his door. So I go in my room, I leave the door open and the volume on the TV is super low, and I lay in bed, and I am not frozen, but I'm laying there like, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to be in the kitchen. I don't want to be in the living room. I just want to be in this bed. I want to regulate my nervous system, and I want to listen for him because I don't know what's about to happen. A couple hours later, I hear him, and I'm like, oh, thank God, I can hear him. So he's alive. And his mom must have called him freaking out because she hadn't heard from him in hours. And he sounded a little bit more coherent. And so I come out, and within a couple of hours, we were deep in conversation. And I told him, like, I'm here to listen. I'm here to listen. I've been in your shoes, and I'm not going to try to fix you. I'm not going to tell you why you have all these reasons to live. I'm not going to, um, guilt you or shame you or any of those things, right? I'm just going to sit here with you and listen and let you know that you're not alone and that I've been in your shoes and I know what it feels like. And I know that you're seeking relief. And he's like, yes. And he was like, thank you. And so we sat and I listened to his story. He, 6 months prior, was attacked, brutally, brutally attacked. I'm not going to get too much into the story that he told me because that's his story, but I listened and could understand why he felt that way. Not only that, but he had recently gone through a divorce. And he told me about his ex-husband, and he told me about the attack. And I just sat and I listened. and I understood. I validated his feelings. And I could tell that he didn't want to be alone because after a few hours of talking, he started asking me questions like, would you like to hear this emu song that's really been keeping me alive the last couple of days? He's like, I swear this song keeps playing in my head because the lyrics are about someone who wanted to die but didn't, or wanted to unalive themselves and didn't. And I said, absolutely, let's hear it. So he starts playing me music. And then, he was asking me about songs that I've listened to when I was in that place. So I'd play him the songs. And we just kind of went back and forth. And through asking me questions, he discovered what I do for a living. And we ended up getting deep into this conversation about parts of himself. And I said, well, just what if you don't really want to die? What if, and I've talked about this on this podcast, I've talked about it in my course Reclamation, parts work, right? When a version of us is no longer serving us and we're holding on to it because we're attached to the identity, we're attached to that version, right? It's really that version that's wanting to, in quotation, die, when it's really wanting to go home. It's wanting to integrate back into the whole, but it can feel like a death. And he said, oh my God, that makes so much sense because, I don't know anybody here. And I had to be this certain way for my husband, and I had to be this certain way for my job. And I just don't want to be that anymore. And I said, well, then let that part of you go. Let that part of you die. But you physically don't have to go if you don't want to, but you can let that part of you go. And so I talked to him a little bit about that. And then we just spent the rest of the night. I mean, we were up till like 1 a.m. just talking about life. He asked me about my book, which I'm going to be sending him a signed copy of. I'm actually sending it to him in rehab. Um, and just helping him because he said, I've been here before. I went before to it for 30 days inpatient. And, it's 6 months later, and here I am. And I said, well, did you have a long-term plan? And he's like, no. And I said, well, is that something maybe you could focus on when you're in rehab? Like, is there counselors there that can help you with the long-term plan? He's like, I don't know. And that, he's like, that's a good idea, to talk to someone about it. And then I said, well, like, what do you like to do? And just started asking him questions so that we could maybe devise a plan. And together we came up with some things that he could do when he returned. And it made him feel empowered, like that he wasn't coming back, because when you come back from doing something like that, I can only imagine you feel clean, you feel clear, you feel energized, and then you come back to the same environment that you were in. Something has to change, right? He has to do something different for the long-term effect. And so we discussed some things that he could do, and I helped him figure out some resources. And he felt really empowered to the point to where I felt safe to go to sleep and let him be alone. And then, of course, in the morning, I got up to make sure he was up, and I had helped him pack the night before, and so he was just getting his last minute things together, and we were chit chatting. One of the other things he said that was really surprising, but then not surprising when I really sat with it, was he said that this is a very common thing for stewards and stewardess on airlines, for them to either have addiction problems and need rehab or mental health issues. And I remember thinking to him, I said to him, why? He goes, well, everybody thinks it's such a glamorous job. You're jet setting all over the country. He goes, but what they don't see is that you're alone most of the time, right? You fly, you get to the destination, You're in an airport, you're in a hotel by yourself overnight. Maybe you meet up with other ones and go to the bar, but a lot of them don't. Um, you work almost every single holiday. You're away from your friends and family, and you're rarely at home. He said it takes a toll on you. And I thought I never even considered that. I never considered that. And it made me have a newfound appreciation for them because I love to fly and to want to maybe, bring them some Starbucks gift cards or Dunkin' Donut gift cards or something that I know that they will use, that it would be convenient. If it's an early morning flight, bringing some Red Bulls or something, whatever. Um, so that's something that I took away with was to have a newfound appreciation for that occupation, especially when I fly often. And I wanted to add that in because I think we don't realize the sacrifices people make for their jobs sometimes, whether it's linemen who go out and travel away from their homes to fix power grids, or stewardess who are traveling all the time, whatever it is. Like everybody has their thing, but we don't always see the sacrifices they make to do their job that we need them to do and appreciate. But the reason why I wanted to share this isn't because of necessarily that happening or his story, but I don't believe in coincidences. I believe you are always where you are meant to be and that there's a reason, right? So, do I feel like this job was just chosen, like she randomly chose me? No, I don't. I feel like there was always a bigger reason why I was to be here. And I felt that night when I went to bed that I had served my purpose. Like I was like, this was my purpose in being here. And not only that, but I made friends with him, and I made friends with the roommate that the dog I'm actually been hired to watch her, and I feel like I will remain friends with them even if I don't watch their animals anymore. I feel like sometimes people need to have people come into their life, right? A reason, a season, or a lifetime. And so I firmly believe that she was intuitively guided to me because I would be able to help him. If I wouldn't have come, I don't know that he would have made it through the night. He was in a really bad place. And she had left that morning. And when you're left alone and you're feeling that way, there's a greater chance that you're going to execute it than not. I think if he hadn't been so inebriated, he probably never would have told me that he was feeling that way. But he was so grateful, so grateful. And he even said, like, everybody always wants to give their 2 cents, their advice to fix it, but nobody ever just sits with you. And I said, well, that's what holding space is sitting in the dark with somebody. And that's what I did with him that night. I sat in the dark. And when he opened the invitation to me to share something that might be beneficial, I took it. But you have to learn when to speak. You have to learn timing. Because when somebody shares a part of their life, it's vulnerability, right? Even if it's not that serious, when somebody shares a piece of their life with you, they're being vulnerable because you could come in and destroy it. And this is why so oftentimes they say hold your dreams and things that are happening in your life close to your chest. Like don't invite people in because they ruin it. It's a real thing. And I've experienced that to the point to where it's like you don't even want to share anymore because they're just going to shit all over it, right? Or, make you question yourself. And we need to do better as people. And I'm not perfect. I've had my moments too. I'm definitely not perfect. And we should not strive for perfection. But we need to be more mindful of when people are sharing intimate details of their life and that, that's someone that you're close to, that we remember that we don't always need to give our opinion, our critique. We don't always have to tit for tat and match it either. Or how we see things. We should wait for an invitation for that. We should wait for someone who says, "What do you think?" Otherwise, we should be happy for them or just listen to them or hear them. It's not about being a yes person. It's not about not calling somebody out when they need to be called out. It's just about respecting when people share their intimate details. And it was humbling for me and a gut check for me. I have never been in that situation face to face with somebody who wanted to unalive themselves. I have wanted to do that myself, but I have always been alone in those instances. And to be able to be there for someone, to hug them, to sit with them, to listen to them, to validate them was such a beautiful yet scary experience. But never doubt why things happen. Everything happens for a reason. Everything. And here I was thinking, oh, this is just a little extra money. I'm basically being paid to just sleep somewhere else, work somewhere else. I get to cuddle with this beautiful Great Dane. Her name's Nala, by the way, and fill my cup and take a break from people, right? Just kind of slow down, rest, relax, detox, and just be with myself. And then I walk into that. And hearing his story and learning about him and what he's been through, and him wanting to know a little bit about my story and then being interested in even reading my book and being so grateful to have met me. I was like, I'm grateful that I met you. I'm grateful that I took this job. I'm grateful that I'm here because I think I am well suited to handle a situation like this. But I was shocked and mind blown and at all the same time, not surprised at all because I was like, what are the odds that that would be something that I walk into? What would be the odds? I don't even know what they would be. But I absolutely believe, again, that people come into our life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And right now, I think this was a reason, and I think it's going to turn into a season because he wants to stay connected and not from a business perspective, but from a friend perspective because of how I treated him. And I didn't judge him. Um, and I just loved him. And he even told me that night, he said, I love you. He goes, is that weird? We just met. And I said, no, it's not because I love you too. Because we bonded. How can you not love somebody who sits there and listens to you unconditionally, judgment free, and just supports you in all the ways that you need it? Right. And I just started taking care of his dog that night, even though he was still here. He's like, oh, you don't need to do that. I was like, no, I'm going to. I'm already doing one. Why not take the other? And he's like, you are amazing. Thank you so much. Because it isn't about your words. It's about your actions. Your actions are always going to speak louder than your words. And this is another reason why we have to be kind when you're out
shopping, when you're driving and someone's being an asshole and cuts you off or whatever, you don't know. You don't know what's happening in their life. You don't know their mindset. And it doesn't mean that you allow people to treat you like shit. That's not what I'm saying. But you just be kind. You lead with kindness. Even with your own friends, you don't know where they are. I don't even tell my closest friends all the time when I'm not in a good place. If they know me well enough, they'll sense it. But even that, it's been that hasn't even been happening lately, right? Where I feel like um, I've kind of felt like I've been on a little island of my own, and that's okay, right? We go through those periods where we're kind of out of alignment with everybody else. And I have been super detached the past month and a half. And I've was actually going to spend this time really sitting with that. But honestly, the next morning when I woke up, I was like, I was wondering, am I detached in a healthy way or an unhealthy way? Because I really couldn't tell the difference. I couldn't. And I woke up the next day and I knew it was in a healthy way. Because it's not that I don't care about money or people or things. I care, but it's like I can't control if it's here or if it's not. I can't. I can only do what I feel guided to do, and that's it. And I'm gonna probably do a whole nother episode on that because this is a whole big thing that is something I really want to dive into. But I want to keep this podcast focused on this topic. You never know what someone's going through. So don't be an asshole on purpose. Number one. Number two, lead with kindness. And number three, learn how to hold space. Wait to be invited to give your freaking opinion about something or to have commentary about what is happening in someone else's life. The fact that they are open and sharing very deep personal relationship things, financial things, their emotions, whatever it may be, that's vulnerability. You should feel honored that someone wants to open up and share their life with you. The last thing you should do is rain on their parade. And that's something that really needs to change in our society. Because this is honestly, I think, a big reason why people aren't as vulnerable as they could be, why people don't let others in, because people ruin it. And people need to feel safe to be vulnerable. And most of my life, I felt like I've had a sign on my head that says, "Tell me your life story." I I remember being, I don't even know, I think I was 21. I just 21. Yeah, I think I was 21. I had just bought a truck and I was at a gas station. I remember the gas was $1.97 in San Diego at the time. And I remember I was at an Arco gas station. I was pumping gas, and this old guy came up and just started just yapping. I mean, I was probably there for 10 minutes listening to him. And that kind of stuff happened to me all the time. But it's because people feel safe around me, right? And I think that might be a healer thing, that healer vibe, that empath vibe. They feel safe to unload, right, or share. And again, we also, the whoever's doing the sharing, right? If you're the one doing the sharing, you should also, depending on what you're sharing, make sure that people have the space to hold for it. So something that you can say is, um, I could really use you to hold. I could really use some space held for me, right? You could lead with that. And another thing you can say when someone is done sharing their story is, or when they start to even tell you your story, you can say, are you just wanting me to listen? Or are you wanting advice or wanting me to fix it? Like just asking that question alone is so powerful because 9 times out of 10, people just want to be heard. They just want to be heard. They just want to be seen. And this guy had not been seen. He was begging to be seen. See my pain. See my pain. Hear my pain. And I knew that. And I know what that's like. I know what it's like to be internally suffering and just wishing on everything that someone would see my pain, but also feeling unsafe to share my pain out of fear of what that other person is going to say or if they're going to judge. And when other people judge you, that's a reflection of their own pain, right? So that's important to note. But at the same time, when you're in pain and someone judges you or, um, rains on your parade, it doesn't feel good. And it makes you want to shut down and close off. And that keeps the world divided, not united. So we need to learn emotional regularity inside of ourselves, right? First and foremost, we need to create that safe space inside of ourselves. But we also need to be super mindful and know that when you allow someone to be vulnerable with you and share their good news, their new relationship, their divorce, their financial hardship, whatever it is, they're not asking you necessarily to fix it. 9 times out of 10, they're wanting someone to see them because they're having a hard time seeing themselves. They're wanting someone to recognize that they're hurting. They're wanting someone to hold the space so that they can break. And that's what he did. He got to break. He got to break and look at all the pieces. And we even made a joke. I feel like Humpty Dumpty. And I was like, yeah, but the cool part is, right? You get to remake yourself. Now that you've broken, and he kept saying, I'm broken, I'm broken. And I was like, well, I don't see that. I see that you're breaking. He's like, what's the difference? And so I told him, and that's when he brought in the Humpty Dumpty joke. And I was like, I laughed too. And I said, I relate. I relate, bro. But you can see all the pieces now. And he's like, yes, that's so true. I'm like, and then you get to pick what you want to keep and what you don't. But when people hold space for you, what they're doing is creating a container so that person feels safe to let go and let the pieces fall where they may, so that they have an opportunity to choose what they want to pick back up. And they get the opportunity and the space to see the pieces, right? But if you have to be strong and you are all by yourself and you don't have anybody that can be that safe space for you, you aren't going to break in the same way. This is where I believe also another piece of that strong woman syndrome comes in, hyper independence, the people who don't let anybody in, right? How can you break and see all the pieces? You you can't hold space and break for yourself. It's not the same as letting someone else holding the space and breaking. When I went through that breakup over this at the beginning of fall in September, I remember I couldn't cry for days, weeks. I think it was about a week and a half. I couldn't cry. I couldn't cry. And I went out and I could feel myself spiraling. And so and I had I think I did a whole show on this, but I leaned into the spiral, right? When when your car's skidding out of control, you lean into the skid. So I was like, fuck it. I'm gonna lean into spiraling. And I went out and I spent the whole weekend at the bar and I drank a lot. And the second night out, Uh, my brother came and picked me up. It was probably 1 a.m. No, it wasn't even that late. I think it was like 11:30 or 12. We had started at 11 a.m. So, you know, anyway, he comes and picks me up. I walk in the house. My sister-in-law has a blanket laid out on the floor. She says, pats it, come lay on the floor with me. I lay on the floor. She rolls me up like a burrito, starts rubbing my head and asking me if I was okay. And I just broke into a million pieces. And I sat there or laid there and I sobbed for hours. And she fed me Reese's Pieces, the little Reese's miniatures. And she just listened and rubbed my head and told me she loved me and allowed me to cry and get it all out. And that was the reason why I was able to pick up the pieces and start moving forward again, was because I finally was able to break down and let all the pieces fall and release all of the energy, all of the pressure that was pushing on on my structure, which was making me spiral. Like it was like building a storm inside of me where I felt out of control. And the reason why I felt out of control is because I was trying to grab onto control and I was trying to do all of these things and it was just making it worse and worse and worse. And so I was like, forget it. I'm just gonna break. I'm just gonna lean in and hope that I break because I needed that dam to break. I needed those emotions to flow. I needed to get clarity. I wasn't gonna do it until I broke. But I could not have done that without somebody holding the space for me. I know that without a shadow of a doubt. So as we move forward this year in 2025, there's going to be a lot of people that go through these huge upheavals, these huge awakenings, traumatic things, losses of people. And if you happen to be someone who knows someone who goes through something like this, I hope this podcast helps you be a better friend, partner, whatever it is to that person. Or if you're the one who's breaking, you may be more empowered to say, I need someone to hold space. Just sit with me in the dark. Let me break. I just need you to be here and rub my head or whatever the case may be. But this is what we need right now. The world's a hard enough place. We don't need more assholes. We don't need more judgment. We need more compassion, more empathy, more fucking kindness. We need people to understand what holding space is and to recognize that you might save someone's life. And you may not even know that you're doing it. When I go out on a date or just out to eat and I see a woman who looks gorgeous, like her outfit is stunning, her makeup is beautiful, I always tell her, oh my God, you look so beautiful. Oh my God, your hair is so gorgeous. Oh, your makeup looks flawless. When another woman compliments another woman, it's a different feeling. Like men, they hit on me all the time. It doesn't, it's almost meaningless at this point what they think about me. But when a woman takes the time to say, you have gorgeous hair, your makeup, your eye makeup looks so beautiful, your outfit is stunning, you look so great, whatever it is, you have a beautiful smile. I'm like, thank you. Like, I really receive that. So when I'm out, I will literally walk up to a woman at a table, interrupt her conversation, and tell her how beautiful she is. Not everyone receives it well, but I don't care because you never know what someone's going through. And that might be the very thing that turns their day around or makes them go, oh, maybe I do have a reason to live. Maybe I am beautiful. Maybe these thoughts in my head that tell me I'm not enough or I'm ugly or I'm fat or whatever, maybe those are lying. The stranger thinks that. So when we lead with kindness in that way, you might just save the day. You might just save that person's day or save their life. You don't know. And I don't know if he would have done it if I wasn't here. I'm not going to say I necessarily saved his life, but I definitely know I helped his life. And I helped him see that there are good people in this world who will love him and accept him and listen to him, even if they barely know him. And it was just something that I felt really called to share with you all. And I will see you guys in the next episode.
Hey, thanks for listening. This episode was brought to you by johannaburkhart.com, where it's time to defy the limits of your mind and step into your multidimensional mastery. Don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. See you next time.